The Unseen Hand. It was a chilly October evening when Emily first noticed the sound. A faint creaking, like wood bending under invisible weight, echoing from the old farmhouse hallway. She had only moved in a week ago. The house belonged to her late uncle, and when the will unexpectedly left it to her, she thought it was a blessing. A chance to escape the city, to breathe fresh country air, and to start over. But from the very first night, something felt wrong. The farmhouse had a way of groaning, as if alive, shifting with a pulse of its own. The doors would open slightly by themselves. The air inside was always colder than the outside breeze, and there was that smell, faint but persistent, like damp earth mixed with old iron. Emily told herself it was just an old building settling. After all, the farmhouse had stood for more than 100 years. But then came the sound. It always started the same way, a long, drawn-out creak, like footsteps on old wooden floors. Yet whenever she turned her head, nothing was there. Chapter 1. The First Touch. On the third night, Emily woke suddenly, her heart racing. The room was silent, but the air felt heavy, pressing down on her chest. She lay still, her eyes adjusting to the pale moonlight slipping through the curtains. And then she felt it. Something brushed across her hand. It wasn't the blanket. It wasn't the cat she once had in her apartment, though she almost wished it was. No, this was different. This was cold, icy, like fingertips trailing along her skin. Emily yanked her hand back and switched on the bedside lamp. The room was empty, but her hand burned with cold, as though something unseen had just clutched it. She didn't sleep the rest of the night. Chapter 2. The History of the House. The next morning, Emily visited the local diner in town. The old man behind the counter, Frank, recognized her right away. "You're staying at the Whitmore place, aren't you?" he asked, raising a grizzled brow. Emily nodded cautiously. "Yeah, my uncle's old house." Frank gave a low whistle. "Not many folks last long in that place." "What do you mean?" Emily pressed, her voice uneasy. He leaned closer. "House is cursed. Always has been. They say old Samuel Whitmore went mad in there back in 1910. Claimed he was haunted by a hand that guided him. Said it pulled him into wicked things. Murdered his own family one night. Only he survived. When they found him, he was muttering about the unseen hand." Emily felt her skin prickle. "Just stories," she said, forcing a laugh, but her hands trembled around her coffee mug. Frank didn't laugh. "Stories don't make a house this empty for over a century." Chapter 3. Escalation. That night, Emily sat in the living room, trying to distract herself with a book. The farmhouse was silent, except for the faint ticking of the grandfather clock. Tick, tick, tick. And then, creak. The sound came from the hallway again, louder this time. Emily swallowed hard, standing with the book still in her hand. She inched toward the hallway, every step hesitant. The wooden boards beneath her feet felt colder, as though the warmth of the fireplace hadn't touched this part of the house. The shadows stretched longer here, unnatural in their reach. Suddenly, the door at the far end of the hall slammed shut. Emily screamed, dropping the book. Her breathing was ragged, her heart pounding like a drum. "Who's there?" she demanded, her voice shaking. No answer, just silence. Her hands trembled as she turned the doorknob slowly, pushing the door open again. The room beyond was empty, just her uncle's old study, filled with dust and cobwebs. But the papers on the desk had been disturbed. They lay scattered, as if someone or something had swept a hand across them. So Chapter 4. The writing days passed, and the activity grew worse. Lights flickered, doors opened on their own. At night, Emily felt that icy brush across her skin again and again, sometimes her hand, sometimes her leg, once even across her throat. She stopped sleeping altogether. One morning she stumbled into the kitchen exhausted, only to find something new. On the table, scrawled in dust as if traced by a fingertip, were words. "Let me guide you." Emily staggered back, her breath catching in her throat. The words stayed there all day, no matter how many times she wiped the table clean. By nightfall, they returned again. Chapter 5. The Grip. The breaking point came on the 7th night. Emily lay in bed, too tired to move, her body heavy with exhaustion. The room was silent, almost too silent. Even the usual creaks of the farmhouse seemed to hold their breath. And then it happened. Her arm lifted, slowly, deliberately, as though pulled by invisible strings. Emily's eyes widened in terror. She tried to resist, tried to push her arm down, but the unseen force was stronger. Her own hand turned toward her, fingers curling tight around her throat. She gasped, choking as her hand squeezed. Tears streamed down her face as she clawed at her wrist with her free hand, trying to break the grip. Just when she thought she would pass out, the pressure vanished. Her arm fell limp at her side, and she gasped for air, coughing violently. In the silence, a whisper filled the room. "Don't fight me." Emily bolted upright, her scream echoing through the house. Chapter 6. The Escape Attempt. By morning, Emily had made up her mind. She packed a bag and rushed to her car. But when she turned the key, nothing happened. The engine was dead. Frantically, she tried again and again, but it refused to start. She ran back inside for her phone, only to find it lying in pieces on the floor, the screen shattered beyond use. Panic clawed at her chest. It was as if the house itself wouldn't let her leave. That night, the unseen hand returned. This time, it wasn't content with touching. It dragged her from bed, pulling her across the wooden floor toward the study. Emily screamed, her nails clawing at the floorboards, but her body slid forward anyway. She was hauled into the study, where the desk stood waiting, a single piece of parchment laid out. Her own hand seized a pen. Against her will, it began to write. "I am your hand now." Chapter 7. Possession. Emily fought with every ounce of her strength, but the more she resisted, the stronger it grew. Day by day, she felt her control slipping. Her arm would move without her, slamming doors, scribbling strange symbols, lighting candles she didn't remember placing. Her reflection began to change. When she looked in the mirror, her right hand moved a moment too late, like it wasn't hers anymore. She realized with growing horror that this wasn't just a haunting, it was a takeover. The unseen hand didn't just want to guide her, it wanted to become her. But Chapter 8. The Final Night. On the 10th night, the storm came. Rain battered the farmhouse, lightning flashing across the windows. Emily huddled in the living room, clutching a kitchen knife in her left hand. The only hand she still felt was hers. But it was useless. Her right hand rose slowly, trembling in the dim light. She fought against it, crying, begging, but the knife twisted from her grasp. Her own hand pointed the blade at her chest. She screamed, pushing with her left hand, trying to stop it, but the strength was overwhelming. The unseen hand laughed through her own mouth, a guttural, inhuman sound. Lightning flashed, and then silence. The epilogue. Weeks later, Frank, the diner owner, drove past the farmhouse. He slowed his truck, noticing the faint glow of a lamp in the upstairs window. Strange, he muttered. No one had seen Emily in town for days. That night, as the storm raged on, a pale figure stood at the window. Emily's face, but not her eyes. Her right hand waved slowly through the glass, and if you looked closely enough, you could see that it wasn't hers anymore.